Hello here, and welcome to our Uncommon Sense show number one in English. This is going to be for some of you that saw our Uncommon Sense in Spanish, kind of a similar way. We're gonna have a lot of different kind of chats that we're gonna do. We're gonna have videos. We're gonna analyze different things. We're gonna have guest clips, a little bit of everything. And today in the first show, we're gonna have our first guest. But first, I wanna just introduce my partner here, my co-founder and common sense partner. I would say,
Co-founder.
yeah, Pablo. How you doing, mate?
Hello, people. Hello, Seb. How you doing? You're fine?
All good in here. I'll say a little
Good
bit a
news.
little bit colder than you.
I hope we are not too rusty with the English, and the guest can understand us everything. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that.
So,
So
what do
I'm
you
just
say?
gonna pass the ship to you now, so you can introduce our guest from today that is gonna be with us from the get go. So
Yeah,
I leave it
sure.
to you.
So, okay. So, yeah, we have a guest today. It's from Ireland, specifically from Limerick. It's a friend of mine, ex-person. It's a coach. He's a coach, and also he's preparing to run an ultra marathon. What we are going to touch during the show today. So, without further ado, we have John Mcnamara here with us. It should appear on the screen in any second.
And here it is.
Welcome,
Hello,
John.
hello, hello,
Hey,
hello, and welcome,
good
John.
evening.
Ireland,
How are you guys?
Ireland.
Hey, everybody's in Ireland.
Nice to see you, man. It's been a long
Yeah,
time.
thanks for having me on, guys. Your
Our
show,
pleasure.
and quite an honor to be your first English guest on your
Yeah.
show. I've seen you've got some big names in the Spanish and Argentinian world, so thanks for having me on.
Thank you
No,
for coming.
Mm,
thanks to you, John. You're gonna see me looking sometimes to the left. Maybe it's because I'm gonna be reading messages if they appear into our
yep.
YouTube page, and maybe some questions for you,
Yeah,
um,
cool.
or updating something. So it's
Yeah.
not
I
that
hope
I'm not listening
I
to you.
No, no,
I
no.
hope you don't
It's
get I hope you don't get too dark, John. I think the light is going away
uh,
slightly there.
Yeah, I have a light there beside me, so if needs be, I can turn it on. So you won't keep me in the dark for long.
Okay,
Great.
I
Pablo,
might
do
put
you
it.
know
I
if we
might put
have
it
the
on now.
link? Do you have the
Yes.
link on Facebook for the live video posted?
Yeah. It's on Facebook. You can check it out. You can look up on YouTube as Uncommon Sense English. It should
Perfect. Yeah,
come
I
up.
can see it here.
Hmm.
And yeah, let's dive in. Probably it's gonna be about an hour, John. So you can stay with us.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe we can start with a quick intro. I know you're from Limerick. Maybe you just would like to give a brief intro about you.
Yeah. So I suppose I'll talk about my work piece, and then I can talk a little bit around what I do for my hobbies, which is running long distances. So know Pablo originally from my previous life as somebody who worked in software sales. So I worked with a company called Symantec and had a
Hmm.
sales role with them for quite a number of years. Um, whilst I was doing that, I was also studying. And for the last probably 5 years, I've been working for myself. So I do primarily one-to-one coaching. So it's executive and leadership coaching. And quite a lot of work around performance. So whether that's with individuals or whether it's with companies, and sometimes with some sports teams as well. So I've worked with quite a number of sports teams at this stage as well. So the main
Nice.
focus is around people, and it's around developing people, but also around driving performance. So for me, that side is interesting. And then I get to apply some of that stuff then as well to what I do outside of this. So I used to play a lot of football. I used to play a lot of rugby. And then when I stopped playing that because I got too old, I was like, okay, shit, what do I do now? So I started to run. So I suppose when I was playing rugby, I wouldn't have been that big. So I wanted to keep any muscle mass on me that I could. So I didn't do that much long running. But when I finished, I was like, okay, let's start doing a couple of marathons. So I did a few marathons and I was like, Yeah, these are fine. These are a bit of fun. You can get into a place when you start to run marathons of, okay, how fast can I get? So there's somewhat of an appeal to that. But then I was like, okay, a marathon is fine, but surely there's something bigger and harder out there that's a challenge, because once you've done a few marathons, it's like, okay, that's grand, and you don't really get the same buzz. So then I started looking for what else was out there, and I had been familiar with quite a few endurance races that were out there. So Marathon des Sables was one that was on my radar for quite a while, because there was a documentary with James Cracknell, who's the British rower. He was a former Olympian, and he had done it, and there was a documentary on YouTube on it that I'd saw, and I was like, okay, fuck, this looks like something good. So yeah,
we are gonna touch that on the second half of the show today. Yeah, cool. Thank you for the intro. Are you still based in Limerick?
Yeah, so still based in Limerick, but I do a lot of my work in Dublin. A lot of the bigger companies I'd work with. So I do a lot of stuff on my own from the coaching side, and then myself and another guy, a colleague of mine, Brian Downs, we have a business called Performance Nerds, and we do a lot of big corporate work. So we'd work with a lot of big companies like PayPal, Salesforce, Santander Group. And most of those are based in Dublin. So I'd probably be in Dublin 2 to 3 days every week, but still based in Limerick. So obviously I'm not anywhere at the minute other than in my house. But yeah, before the coronavirus, yeah. So before the coronavirus, I would have been in Dublin probably 2 to 3 days every week with work. So, but it's a good mix. I still get to live in Limerick, and I get to work for myself. So it's a nice balance.
Nice. Yeah, but I would like to start probably what I would like to focus. Well, we've been talking about maybe to start with the coaching side, so your business side, and then we're going to move to more on the athlete side.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned before, we used to work together. And like circumstances, I moved to another country, etc. So one of the things that I would like to ask you, maybe you can you briefly mentioned it before, is how did you get into coaching? Is it something that you already brought it? There was somebody that you looked it up to? And
I don't know. It was probably about 11 years ago at this stage. I am 40 this year, so it's probably coming up to 30. And from my experiences of just working with people, a lot of people will have their younger part of their life whereby you go to school, maybe you go to college, get a job, do a trade, whatever it might be, and then you work for maybe 4, 5, 6 years. For some people, they'll love it. They'll go, oh yeah, that's amazing. I want to stay doing this for the rest of my life. For other people, when they get around their 30th birthday, they start to reflect and go, okay, do I really want to be doing this for the rest of my life?
Right.
And for quite a few people, the answer is no. So they go, no, it was nice. And maybe I thought this was the career path I wanted to go down, or maybe I chased money. And then I realized after a while, money wasn't it. It wasn't the be all and end all. I need to get a bit of fulfillment. So I was kind of at that time frame myself where I was coming up to 30, and I was like, okay, I have a reasonably good job. I know in working in corporate America, and I know that I can be good in this space. I can make money in this space, and I can be successful. But I was kind of going, I don't think this is it. Like, because there's an element of it that it's a game, and you have to play the game if you want to be really successful. And I was going, okay, do I really want to play the game at that level? So I started to look around more out of curiosity than anything else. And I was just like, okay, I wonder what else is out there. Like, what other kind of stuff could people do? So I always played sport, and I had an interest in sport, and I kind of looked at sports psychology, and I looked at a few other different areas. And I also kind of looked at the whole construction area. That was quite big in Ireland back then. But I realized, so coaching per se, the kind of personal and executive coaching or performance coaching, wasn't really that big back then. So there was only probably in my city alone, there was maybe 2 people I knew that were doing it. So I started to read a little bit about it, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. So I reached out to one of the guys in my city that was doing it. And I said, can I meet you for a coffee and just have a chat about this? And he said, yeah, no problem. So I sat down and had a chat with him for about an hour. And I was like, Jesus, man, this is interesting. Like this is stuff I need for me right now, because it was around developing your confidence, getting clarity around where you're going, having some career structure and goals for yourself.
Yeah.
So initially I was like, shit, I'm just going to start applying this stuff to myself and where I'm at right now. And then I could see it making kind of subtle differences. It wasn't like I woke up one day and I was like, oh, everything has changed. But people around me were like, geez, man, yeah, you seem to be a lot more positive. I can see you're getting a little bit more confident. So just through kind of initially reading and applying stuff, I was like, yeah, this is definitely it for me. So because I was working full time, I was like, okay, if I want to do this, what I'll do first is I'll do a course and I'll see then what I think of it. So I did a diploma course in personal and executive coaching. And after I did that course, which took maybe 9 months, I was like, okay, this is interesting. This is really interesting. So then I started to coach some people.
And I can interrupt you there, and I think it's really important, John, what you're saying about coaching, because people that are not much into like really like real training, I'll say in a way, or people think as a coach, as a personal trainer only, that is going to give you these kind of exercises and guide you in the gym or guide you in the park or something. But coaching is something else, isn't it?
Yes.
And that is a big difference that I think has to be clear, because
absolutely. Yeah. So like when I started
mixture all that up, kind of.
Yeah. So like when I started to do this first, which is going back probably the bones of 10 years ago, when you say to people I'm a coach, you say, oh, you're a personal trainer. And I said, no, it's not for fitness. It's for your business, or it's for your confidence. It's for around your performance. And I suppose then they'd say, oh, you're like a counselor, or you're a psychologist. So like, do I sit on a bed and like tell you about my childhood? And I'm going, no, fuck, it's not either. No, it's like, so a lot of what counseling does would be looking backwards, and there's generally something in your past that was traumatic that a counselor will delve into and help you to overcome the emotions and then move on. So it's almost like for counseling, you'd start at minus 100, and then a counselor will try to bring you up to 0. And then you can just take it from there. Whereas a coach generally will find somebody who's at maybe minus 10, maybe at 0. And then you're saying, okay, what comes next? So it's very much future focused, whether it's for your business or whether it's for you individually to say, okay, I'm a little bit lost. I don't know where I'm going. I don't really have clarity, but
it's guiding you through your progress, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, completely.
But what you are trying to do basically in basic words is trying to make a better person. Maybe
we have a few messages here. Sorry guys to interrupt you. Patricia here is saying hello guys. Hi. Alejandro Deluxe is saying uncommon sense and common rules. So we have a few people there saying hi and hello. So thanks everybody for watching. Sorry,
cheers,
coming back to you, Pablo and John, or I don't know who it was.
Yeah, John. Let me just quick put into there. You can put it that way.
Yeah.
So great for the explanation of the coaching. So then again, how did you companies? I seen on your Instagram, for instance, that I see you meetings with different companies.
Yes.
So you are actually doing very well. How do you link up? What are the companies looking for in you to bring to the employees? How do you interactions?
I suppose like from going to, I'll just bring it back slightly and then I'll bring it up to then. So just to bridge the gap. So it got to a point whereby I'd done a lot of training. I'd spent a lot of money, a lot of time getting myself to a point where I felt like I had a good enough skill set to do this full time. So then at a certain point, it's like, okay, if you want to really commit to this, you have to take a leap, and you can't be just doing this part-time. You need to do it full-time. So I made a decision about 5 years ago to say, okay, this is what I want to do. This is the career I want to have. I've coached a lot of people now. I've gotten some experience. So I took a leap. And for the first couple of years, it's quite good. Because when you work for a company, you know you're getting X amount of money every month. And then if you work in sales, you know once a quarter, you're going to get a big fat paycheck with all your commission. You're going to go, oh,
we know that. We know.
Yeah, we know that. So that's an incentive to work in that kind of point. But when you work for yourself, that doesn't come. So for the first couple of months, I was like, oh, this is a novelty. I can go and drink coffee and meet my friends. And then you think like you're working, but you're not. Like you're not actually working at all. You're not generating any sales. You're not getting any new clients. And I remember I did my first tax return because I had some money anyway. I had some money built up. So I kind of was going to use it as a cushion. And I did my first tax return. And I think I made for the first year that I was doing this something like €8,000. And I was like, what, for a whole fucking year? I used to get that in a month, like when I was in my last job. I was like, I got this for a whole year. But it was funny because you kind of, as you're working along, you kind of think, oh yeah, I'm busy, I'm doing stuff. But then when you see the figures in front of you on black and white, you're like, oh man, you need to cop on. Because like at the start, it's nice. It's almost like a hobby because you have a full-time job, but then you're going, this is your job now. Like you need to take this seriously. It's not just a hobby anymore, or it's not something you go and meet your friends for coffee or meet people in business for coffee and you think you do. So I was like, okay, if you're doing this, you got to take this seriously. So from that point on, then I kind of had to start treating it more like a business than just this thing I did that was a bit of a thing on the side, because I was like, okay, if you want to buy a new car, you want to go on a nice holiday, you want to do anything, this has to come from this now, not from something else. So at that point then, which is probably about 4 years ago, I started to put more structure around it, and I started to be a bit more strategic around, okay, what am I going to do here? What kind of work do I want to do? What kind of people do I want to work with? And I was doing bits and pieces of work with a guy, Brian, who I mentioned, who's in the business with me in Performance Nerds now. So probably about 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, we started to put together some offerings for corporates. So it was a mixture of training and coaching. So primarily around leadership, and then quite a bit around performance management and performance development as well. And then I suppose we just got 1 or 2 clients at the start. And then on the back of getting some big logos, like we got into 1 or 2 big companies at the start. People are like, well, geez, these guys must be serious. If they're working with this company, they must know what they're at. So then that kind of helped to escalate it. So it's just getting the first 1 or 2 is the hardest. But I found once we got 1 or 2, and then we got some testimonials from them to say, yeah, these guys are good. You should probably bring these guys in, whether it's working with people one-on-one or whether it's working right across the organization or with specific teams in a company. That's kind of how we got it going. But it's, the first, so the first few was hard.
When it came from being that hobby to a kind of your full-time job, then how you apply it? You apply it to companies, you apply to you apply to companies, and there's something else in there apart from the companies that you applied it, or people, like a specific association, or
so there's probably a couple of areas. So at the start I would have done quite a lot of work around developing confidence. One of the areas I did a lot of work in was specifically in confidence. So sometimes it was executives in business all the way up to CEOs. Other times it was just ad hoc people who felt like in their life or in their career, they weren't feeling as confident as they wanted to be, or they felt like they had more ability, but they just couldn't get it out. So that was kind of one of my areas of focus at the start. And I kind of would have got a little bit of action in that. And quite a lot of people would have been successful from the work I'd done with them. And then I worked with some people who were involved in sport at different levels, right up to professional athletes in Ireland. And I suppose the thing with Ireland is, for me, and I see this a lot because a lot of coaches are coming online now. They just seem to be everywhere. Whether they're performance coaches or whether they're career coaches or life coaches, you just see them everywhere. But there's a lot of them are so obsessed about being good on social media. So, I want to be really slick on Instagram, or I want to have a really good post on LinkedIn. But for me, it was always about just be really fucking good at what you do. Like, just keep working on the skill. Yeah, you've got a diploma, you've got an advanced diploma with neuroscience, you've got trainings in NLP, you've got all these other things, but like, it's just endless. There's so much stuff you can learn. There's so many levels you can get better at this. So yeah, you need to do some of this because people have to know you're there. But also, like, at the end of the day, when you sit down in front of a person or you come into a business, if you can't do what they're bringing you in for, you're goosed. Like, you're in trouble. So you have to be able to meet that expectation or even exceed it in order for them to bring you back. And I think a lot of people get this kind of backwards. They think it's all about the marketing, it's all about the promotion, it's all about putting out flashy videos and this, that, and the other. I'm going, yeah, that's great, but ultimately that's just going to get you in the door. If you can't do your shit when you get in the door, you're done for. You might get a couple of customers at the start, but other than the small, the word will travel quite fast.
You know, this remembers me when I started in my job. I do project management, and when I started leading people into projects, one thing was, yes, I lead some operational team, but then leading into projects, and you have so many stakeholders, so many people that you're related to when you're having a big project, and I thought that I could lead, in my head, because I don't know, you think like, well, I was captain in all soccer teams, and I was captain in these and that, and I was running my friends' activities or something. But then when it comes to meeting 10, 20 people and kind of have to guide them, they're waiting for you to give guidance, and sometimes you blocked. And getting that confidence up is sometimes something that you have to work it out, really, because it's not easy. We think we have it, but sometimes you have to kind of exercise it, I'll say.
Yes, completely. And just quickly on that, I think in project management, it's very difficult because project managers touch pretty much everyone in the organization. And what I see in companies is people are okay working with people on the same level with them or people below them. It's when you start to go a person up or 2 tiers up or 3 tiers up in the organization, then people start to shrink, and they're like, oh, geez, I can't ask him, or I can't push that, or I need to. But in essence, it stops you from being effective at your role, because you need to challenge them, or you need to push them for deadlines, or you need to get information. But we create this perception sometimes in organizations of people who are tiers up, that, oh, I can't push them, or what will they think if I say this to them? So yeah, I see this quite a bit.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pablo, I cut you off there.
No, just a quick question about public speech. Is it something for everybody? This is something that you can learn. I guess it has to do with confidence, right?
Yeah, so I would have on that, and I suppose one of the initial offerings myself and Brian had with Performance Nerds is we did a lot in the area of public speaking within companies. So whether it was executives on their own or companies brought us in-house, so kind of communication and public speaking will be 2 things we do quite a bit of. But I think for us, why we were quite passionate about it is because we both came from a place where we were really bad at this. Like, I remember being in university and just having to give presentations of projects, and just literally, like, your mouth was dry, your legs were shaking, you couldn't get anything out, you were just going, and then, like, you just blurt out a whole lot of sentences that made no sense. And I was like, okay, that's my starting point. But maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, when I knew this is what I wanted to do for a career, I was like, okay, you're going to have to speak to groups and be in the front of a room quite a lot. So if you can't get really good at this thing, you don't really have a career. Yes, you'll do quite a bit of one-to-one with people, which is fine. But if you can't walk into a business and stand in front of 20 executives or a room full of 100 people and convey a message confidently, then you're really not at anything in this game. Because unfortunately, if you look at somebody on a stage in your work and they come across as really uncomfortable or really uncertain, a lot of the time people will perceive that as, oh, they just don't know what they're talking about, or they don't know their job really well. When in actual fact, the person might be really good at their job, but they just can't get the message across, or they can't communicate it effectively. So if we bring it up to Seb, and if we're saying project management, if you can't communicate properly as a project manager, then you're not really at a whole pile.
You know that the name that came up to my mind when you say that, for example, Elon Musk. The guy is a freaking genius.
Yeah.
But you put him on the stage to introduce the new products, and the guy is like, But as you said, I mean, if you actually don't know who Elon Musk is, and he comes up and he tries to present anything, you say, this moron, he doesn't know shit.
Oh yeah, completely, yeah. Steve Jobs would be similar. Like, Steve Jobs would have been quite an introverted guy. He was a bit of a geek, but he realized when I want to sell these Apple products, if I step up onto the stage, I have to wow people. I have to get them excited by the product. So if he's this little geek that's shaking, people are just going to go, yeah, your products are pretty cool, but we're not interested. So he was able to tell a story. He was able to engage people, get them excited by the products. So for me, I looked at this and I was like, okay, this is a skill. And if you practice it, and if there's certain techniques you can learn and develop, anyone can get better at this. And I know this from my own personal experiences. So some people will read stuff in a book and just spew it back out again. I know, because I've been that guy who's been really bad at this, and now people will pay me to come in and talk. So I'm going, okay, that's a bit of a 360. So it is definitely something anyone can learn.
Nice. So this is a full-time occupation for you now?
Yeah, so I work at this full-time. So it's one-to-one coaching, and then it is the bigger corporate stuff with Performance Nerds, which is primarily leadership and performance development. And a lot of that is programs. Sometimes we'll do smaller pieces, but a lot of it then is programs over maybe 3 or 6 months where we'll work specifically within organizations.
Nice. Yeah, I actually have in relation to the coaching side of the business, I have one more question. I'm not sure, Seb, if you like you have something to add, or I just go ahead.
No, it's how you see yourself in the future. You see yourself doing something different from what you're doing now, or you're gonna keep expanding, or if you have any other plans, like.
Let me add something, John, because it's very related to my final question. I was going to ask you that.
Okay.
So,
cool.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what in coaching, for instance, what is your goal? What do you aspire to? Could you like doing seminars, for instance, doing online courses? Could you like to make yourself a name in the industry? What are your goals on going forward?
So yeah, it's like where I'm at right now is where I was before this fucking coronavirus is pretty good, because like I make a good amount of money from what I do, and I get to work with a lot of really interesting companies. And I'm doing some work with a couple of sports teams in Ireland as well. But like within this space, I suppose for me in the coaching, so the International Coach Federation, the ICF, they're in essence the governing body for coaching globally. There's not really a governing body, but they are kind of the standard bearer per se. So with them, there's 3 levels you can get certified. So ACC is the first level. I'm already accredited with them as an ACC. The middle level is PCC. I've done all the work and sent off that accreditation maybe a month ago. So hopefully in the next month or 2, I'll get accredited as PCC. And then the highest level you can get is MCC, which is a Master Certified Coach. So that's pretty much the highest you can get coaching globally. So hopefully in a month, I'll be just 1 level below that. So from a kind of developmental standpoint, that's the standard globally. That's as good as you're going to get anywhere in the world. So for me,
No, this is interesting what you say. I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
So actually, if you're going to be a coach, you need to have a title. It's not that you are good at coaching and you are a known coach. Could you be considered a coach if you don't have the titles?
You can, but I mean, in essence, it's probably something you could go in and this is one of the things that pisses me off. So I'll get people that they'll say like, oh, like I'm a sales coach, or I'm a fucking maternity coach, or I'm a real estate coach. And I'm going, you're not, you're a fucking real estate agent. You're not a coach. So it's one of these things people have decided they wanted to tack on to the end of whatever their job description is, because it sounds cool. Right. But like within the coaching industry per se, if you want to be taken seriously and you want to work with big organizations, you will need to be accredited with the ICF.
I was thinking on that. Yeah, if you're going to a company, a multinational or something, they maybe ask you for qualification, even if it's not important or it won't affect on how you work. But at the end, it is a qualification.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing for me is like, I don't have to do these accreditations. I could just coach with the qualifications I've got. But for me, the reason why I do these accreditations is because the process is quite tough. So you need to get a mentor coach who you do 10 hours with, and they basically, you coach, you send them the recordings and they'll literally tear them apart. They'll fucking rip it asunder and they'll go, okay, what are you doing here? What's this about? What you're thinking here? How did you miss this thing? That was really good there. how are you going to make that better? So you're getting that for 10, it was 12 hours actually for this level. You have to do the recordings, you have to do an online test. There's a whole, you have to log 500 hours of professional coaching that you send them the log. So the process is quite tough each level. So for me, that's kind of why I do it, because I could get to the bottom level and just stay there and go, yeah, that's it. But for me, it's like, okay, if you're going to do this, how do you get better at this? And for me, the credentialing from an independent organization is how I raise my standards. So for me, the process is tough, and it's uncomfortable your work out there for someone to tear it apart. But for me, it's like, okay, if you want to take this seriously and you want organizations or individuals or teams to take you seriously, then you need to get better at this all of the time. So that's kind of why I do that part, which is good.
Cool. Tell me, John, a few names up in the how to say in English, pyramid on the coaching. Do you have a few names that they are the reference?
The top in the coaching world, I mean, per se, you could say Tony Robbins. That's probably where he would have started, was a one-to-one coach. And he would have worked with Andre Agassi. He would have worked with Bill Clinton, Oprah Winfrey. He would have worked with a lot of people in this space. So he probably would have been one of the originals.
He's been with Conor McGregor.
Yeah, he's doing some work with Conor McGregor now, actually, too. Yeah. John Maxwell will be a guy who'll be very well regarded. Your man, fucking Goldsmith. So there's, in Ireland, the lady who I do my work with, she mentors me. She's probably the best coach. She's one of the best coaches I would know in Ireland, but nobody would have heard of her because she's not really online. She's not on social media. She's just really good at what she does, but she's one of the MCC coaches. So she's a master certified coach with the ICF. When I started working with her about 3 years ago, there was only 3 of those coaches in Ireland. So there was only 3 people in Ireland had the MCC. And they would have spent most of their time working outside Ireland because there would have been just such a demand for people with that skill set. And she's that good. So the last time I was talking to her, she was in Malta working with the Maltese government. So she'd got a contract in Valletta and she was there for like 3 months. So when you get to that level, you're pretty much globally, people will just reach out and seek out your skill set. So it's one of those things that if you do invest in it and you get better and better, you don't even really need to market yourself. Just by virtue of your accreditations, you'll get work.
Nice. Cool.
I wanted to go maybe if we change a little bit of I wanted to go into the other side of the interview, and when I heard about it, to be honest, I went and watch a little bit of this kind of race, marathon, or I don't know. It's crazy, to be honest, just for seeing it. But how this come to your head? Like how you find this? How you find the marathon of Sables? How?
So I suppose
maybe if you could start with the explanation of what the marathon is.
Yeah, that could be actually. You're right.
Yeah, I'll start with that, and I'll tell you about, I suppose, how I came to have it on my radar. So it was touted as, well, in Google, when you type in, it comes up as the world's toughest endurance event. I think that the Barkley marathons may be tougher. They're not longer, but I think Barkley's probably tougher now because most people don't finish Barkley, whereas a lot of people will finish the Marathon des Sables. But it's 260 kilometers over 6 days. So you are in the Sahara Desert. So you're dropped in the middle of the desert. The only thing you're provided with is a tent, which is pretty much just some canvas over your head at night. There's nothing at the front or back. And there's about 8 people in a tent. So it's a shared tent. So the first few days there, it's about 35 kilometers day 1, day 2, and day 3. Yeah. But like the thing is, I'd go 35 kilometers. Sure, I can just go out and run that now. That's not hard. But it's between 30 and 40 degrees heat. You get a lot of sandstorms, and the terrain varies on it some days. So it's very hilly some days, and you get a lot of sand dunes where it's really soft sand. So you can't even run in it. You have to kind of almost walk or climb up some parts of it because it's not possible to run. And then the long day, which you run overnight. So you run through the night, is 86 kilometers. So day 4 and day 5
John,
is a double marathon back to back and a little bit of change.
I'm gonna.
we,
Yeah.
yes,
No,
we,
I just wanna say we have a few images here that I'm gonna pass through.
Yeah.
The first just quick videos as we're gonna see. Yeah, no, Pablo, you want to say something?
yes, please. Just before we go into the videos and that,
Yeah.
you were explaining about. I was going to tell you about that. We are going to touch the dangers of the race itself.
Yeah.
But first of diving into the videos and the race itself, maybe
Cool.
what we were discussing is to know how you are preparing yourself leading up to the race, knowing that for one side you have the physical side of it, you have the mental side, and also, as you know, the race was supposed to happen in April.
Yes.
I noticed that you were training pretty hard. Now it's moved to September.
Yes.
So you can tell us maybe how did affect this gap in the middle that you didn't expect to.
Yeah. So do you want to run them images, or will I talk as you're going?
No, you can talk first, and then we.
Okay. So so the race was supposed to run on the 3rd of April. And I started training around this time last year. So it's been pretty much 12 months, but I wasn't really into the heavy training until about the first week in September. So I had it planned that it was going to be a 7-month block. And I had my training kind of planned out week by week. And I was working off all of these kind of metrics that I needed to hit every week to build it up. So it's interesting because when you look at it at the start, you're going, man, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. But like by the time you get into January or February, it's like you do a marathon on Saturday, you get up Sunday morning, you go out and you do another marathon. And then on Monday you go to work and you're like, fuck, I don't actually feel too bad today. So it's amazing how fast that, like, what you deem as doable, it begins to stretch, and like your horizons of this expand. So like generally during the week you do 3 runs. They'd vary in length from 10 to 15k. Sometimes you'll do some hills during the week. You'll get 2 tough gym sessions in, a lot of strength stuff, mainly around your legs, but because you carry everything on your back, you got to do some upper body stuff as well. So you have your pack on your back, and you bring all of your food, you bring all your medical supplies, you bring your sleeping bag, you bring your venom pumps, everything that you need to bring, you're carrying on your back. So your bag is about 10 kg at the start, and then you try, obviously, as you eat some food, it gets lighter as you go along. So you need to keep strength on as well as just the physical endurance side. And then generally the way I work my program was Saturday and Sunday were 2 long days. So you had to try to do a really tough day and then be able to get up the next morning early and just go again and do another really tough day. So like the longest runs were like 60 or 70k on a Saturday or Sunday, and you'd always have at least 2 to 3 hours the day before or the day after, just to make sure that when you were absolutely fit and your feet were wrecked, that you could get up the next day and just go again. So that is the psychological part, because like when you get up in the middle of January and it's cold and it's wet and it's just dark and you're going, okay, I've got to get out of bed at 7 o'clock to eat food, and then I got to get my pack on and get out into the rain again, and just do another 3-4 hours. And it just, every weekend there seemed to be a storm. There was like 4 weekends in a row in Ireland where there was storms. It's like, man, I got to go out and do this crap again in the middle of a storm. So it's
I can tell you that,
tough.
like, I normally go out and run. Last year I was trying to prepare for a half marathon, and while running 16k or something, I got injured. And I was trying to run the Valencia one because it's pretty flat, so it's a good one to start. But you're saying 60 kilometers, and then you're saying 1 week and you run it again, another marathon. And for me, like, I see that as impossible.
Big time.
Yeah, yeah. It's like
But
for me, I'm like today I'm running around 10K, 11K or something once a week,
yeah,
and I have to recover at least to go for another session, at least 72 hours, 3 days or 4 days.
yeah, yeah.
We
You
are
see,
getting old.
the thing with this is you're building yourself to be able to go to the desert and do 6 days consecutively. So
Okay.
yeah, in a normal training cycle, you would give yourself quite a bit of rest because your body needs to recover to go again. Now,
Hmm.
rest is still a part of this, but you also have to be able to train your body and your mind to be able to say, okay, my legs are in bits, my back is sore, I've got blisters on my feet. But then you still have to get up out of bed on a Sunday and go, okay, you got to go again, or get up on a Saturday. Or sometimes if your work week means you're away a lot, you might have a quieter day on a Monday. So rather than having a day off, you're going, oh man, I have to go out and run for 3 hours with a full backpack on me. No, you could have like 10 kg on your backpack, and then you're just running around the city and everyone's going, oh, here he is, he's out again. There's that lunatic. So it's, yeah, it's funny because like towards the end, when it was getting to kind of March time, I was like, okay, I'm tired of this now. My body's sore. It's been a long winter. I'm just looking forward to getting this run done. And then I can just take a couple of months off, drink some beer, take it easy, lift a few
Yeah.
weights, and just go back to a normal workload. And yeah, so it was just getting to that point. And I remember one of my last runs, I was going out and I had my full pack on, and I was to do 70 kilometers. So I was going to do about 15, and then I was meeting my sister. She was going to do like 20K with me, and then I was going to do another 35 of my own. But I was coming along the main Dublin road and just passing kind of an area where there was some people live, and this dog ran out. It was like a stray dog, and he jumped up and he bit me on the arm. And I was like, oh, fuck. So I was like stung all the way down my arm. And then I went down a little bit, and there was kind of a shopping centre there, and I just sat in the wall, and I took off my top, and it was all like all blood on my arm. And I just sat in the wall, and I was so physically and mentally drained from all the training. And I was just going, this was my last long run. And I just sat in the wall. I was like, I don't fucking believe it. I cannot believe this. And I just sat there for about 10 minutes, just shaking my head, going, because I knew I was going to have to stop the run because the dog bit me. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, like I cannot believe this. I was actually going, will I go back and fight the dog? Yeah, it got to the point where it just had become, it was so big, and it was taking up everything. It's all your time, it's all your energy, and like physically and emotionally and mentally, you just put so much in to get to that point where you're ready to go. And then it was like when the dog bit me, it was like someone put a pin in a balloon, and it just went.
Hmm.
So, and then about a week later, the race got cancelled. So that was supposed to be my last run.
Man,
And the
that's
following Saturday, I got an email. I was just going into the city to do some weights with a friend of mine. And I got an email from the organizers of the event to say, due to the coronavirus, the race isn't going to be run. And this was like 2.5 weeks before I was due to fly out. And they said, we're going to postpone it, and it's going to be run in September. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. I have to do another 5 months of this training. So yeah, it's I suppose what I did was I took April I didn't take it off fully. I just did a lot of shorter runs. So
Yeah.
today is the 1st of May, I think, is it? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting actually, because today is the day I set to start doing my training again. So I said I'm going to take April relatively easy, do a bit of weights, do some shorter runs, do a bit of cycling, and from today onwards I'm going to pick it up, and then I start into the heavy stuff again for September, which
Yeah.
is tough.
So, uh, okay. Well, just a quick question before going into probably Seb. You want to show the video so the
Yeah,
people
hmm
yeah,
see
yeah.
what's it about today. Okay, we're in May. It's still a couple of months before, but in terms of percentage, where are you located in terms of getting ready to? 10%,
Um,
20%?
oh, so I'm going to run a marathon Sunday morning.
You said it like it's gonna be like he's going to go, like for 2K. I'm gonna run a marathon Sunday morning.
Yeah, it's because I haven't run one in about 6 or 7 weeks. And you might think that's only 6 or 7 weeks, but you lose it quite fast. So I think the one Sunday morning is probably going to sting a little bit. So, but that's kind of for me, that's the starting point of getting back into it, because I need to do one long run. just to throw myself back in at the deep end, get my legs sore again. And then from that, it's kind of building it back up. And what I'll do is I want to go back into the program I had and pretty much just go back to January where I was, and then just run the same build up again of that kind of 3.5 months. So
and it is confirmed that it's going to happen in September with all of these things that's going on.
It's down for the 17th of September. The company who organizes it are French. So the original guy who founded this race is a French guy. They run it a year in Morocco. So they're saying, yes, it's going to go ahead, but ultimately the government of Morocco will make the call on this. Now, I spoke to the girl in the UK last week. She said, yeah, it should be fine by then. But there is still a chance that it may not go ahead. So I'm going to have to go head first into another massive block of training with the possibility of them pulling the plug again and going, oh yeah, all for nothing again. So
well, at least you stay fit.
Yeah. At least I stay fit. And the good thing about this time of the year is at least I get a suntan too. Because when I was doing it in the winter, it was just fucking grey. Whereas now it's been sunny, so I was like, it's okay, I get a suntan. But the worst case scenario on this is that it will be run next April. So if it isn't run in September, it'll definitely be run next April. But I'd like it to be run in September because otherwise it's another whole winter, and that's probably 18 months of training for one event if it's not run until next April. So that's a lot.
Awesome. Seb, we kick with the videos.
Yeah, I'm gonna start with I'm gonna show 3 consecutive videos that they're gonna show like the when they start the race, and actually will be the registration day that they call it, that I saw.
Yes.
and then when the race starts. So I'm gonna put it.
But Seb,
yeah.
How do you want to organize it? You want to show the entry, then we discuss that, then you show another block, and then
I show this block of videos, and then we discuss it, and then if we have to go to another one, then we discuss it afterwards. The videos.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. We're gonna go now with the videos.
You're the boss, Seb.
Yeah. So those are the first 3 videos that I think on the live we have a little bit of delay.
Yeah, it's on the registration day on the live now.
Yep.
How many people is expected, John?
So this year is the 35th anniversary. So it's their 35th time running it. So they reckon they were going to have about 1,000 people this year.
1,000 people.
Yeah. That was the plan. Whether those numbers are going to decrease, but I think it was going to be their highest ever entry, because it was kind of an anniversary race. But they come from all over the world, every country imaginable, and they will range from former Olympic athletes to professional rugby players, Olympians. You'll have them all in there. So that they're every level of athlete. And you also have a couple of Moroccans who run this every year. They weigh about 7 stone, and I think they eat like 2 peanuts for the whole week, and they're just they're gone, man.
I checked the last winners in Wikipedia.
Yeah,
they're all Moroccan guys.
Yeah, these guys are like, they're born and raised in this. They run in this terrain all their lives, so they're used to running in the sand. They're used to running in the heat. And also because they're so accustomed to it, they don't need to carry as much food, and they don't need to carry as much water, so they're light.
That that doesn't sound important sometimes, but I'm here in Ireland for 8 years, and I'm going running, as I said, every week. But then I think it was last year or the previous year, I went to Mallorca, and one day was 35, 38 degrees. Something like that, near the 40s. And I said, I'm going to go for a run. It was 2 p.m. And I said, I'm going to do 10K or 8K. I don't remember. Man, I couldn't run it, the 10K. Like I was, I finished I think when I was on the 7K or something, and I was, when your pressure, your blood pressure
Yeah.
goes down, and you're
Oh
starting
yeah.
feeling dizzy. It's
Mm.
crazy how the weather could change, your
Oh yeah. Yeah,
and if
completely.
you're used to a country like here in Ireland that we kind of have this mild weather, that it
Yeah.
goes from I don't know 5 to 20, and it's you don't have that kind of heat,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
could be something tricky for you when you train because you train in Ireland and then you have to
Yes.
go there in the desert, and that could how is there a different preparation or you do something to
Yeah, so I suppose like because my training was in the winter in Ireland and the weather's really bad, like the hottest it's been was 48 degrees. So the hottest ever temperature in the Marathon des Sables has been 48. Now it's generally between 30 and 35, which is still hot.
still really
Um,
hot, yeah.
yeah, especially when you're carrying your pack as well. And the terrain is not like running on a road. You get a lot of uneven surfaces and sand, and you've a lot of hills and stuff. So it's going to knock it out of you. You mightn't feel it on the first day or two, but if you just start to get dehydrated, it's that feeling you had multiplied by about 1,000. So that's really what's going to catch a lot of people. So obviously you'll take a lot of electrolytes in your water just to make sure you're replenishing your mineral stuff. But I suppose for me in the training, just wearing a lot of clothes on a lot of your indoor runs. So I did a few marathons on a treadmill and I was wearing a hat and like 3 tops, just to get used to that sense of heat. But what I also started doing was doing Bikram yoga. So
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
the hot yoga sessions. I put on quite a bit of clothes and I do a 90-minute yoga session in the heat. So the heat in there was around 35. So it was similar enough to the conditions of what I'd be running in. Um, but for me, I suppose the only thing that I could get from that was just mentally getting used to being that hot and not freaking out. Because I remember the first day I did the Bikram yoga class, after about 30 minutes, my head was roasting. I was like, oh shit, man. Like, how am I going to run in this
Hmm.
if I can't even sit down and do some stretches in this class? So then I was like, okay, just sit in and have a drink of water, just manage yourself. So a lot of it is just the mental side. So for
Yeah.
me, the Bikram yoga classes were good because it just got me psychologically used to being that hot and not freaking out. So I'll go back and do that again. And you can do 2 or 3 a week before it. So probably for the 3 or 4 weeks before the run, I'll do them. And just suppose what happens as well, because I've done a lot of research around the physiology of this, is when you go to hot conditions first, your body sweats a lot
Hmm.
to cool you down. But once you've been there for a period of time, your body adjusts and it doesn't actually produce as much perspiration after that. So what you're hoping to do is get beyond that point at home in the Bikram yoga so that when you get there, your body has somewhat acclimatized and it doesn't produce as much perspiration. So
Okay.
obviously, anything you sweat out, you need to replace through water or through minerals. So you just want to get kind of beyond that curve physiologically before you go. So there's a lot of moving parts in it.
And before we go to the next set of videos, I just wanted to ask
Mm.
you a question because of watching the admission day
Yeah.
and watching that. What do you actually? Two questions in here actually.
Mm.
What do you actually take with you? I know that you said something previously. What
Yeah.
do you really take with you on the trip? And how you get there, how you get to the actual place in the race, because
Yeah.
from what I saw it's in the middle of nowhere, in the
Yeah.
desert.
Yeah.
So how you get there, I imagine the organization facilitates something for you, but I don't know.
Yeah. So I'll, so they are there's an organization that looks after the entrance from UK and Ireland. So we
Hmm.
all meet in Heathrow.
Okay.
No, Gatwick actually. We meet in Gatwick and we fly from Gatwick to, I think we fly to Marrakesh, and then there's a transfer to a place called Ouizzazat. So it's in the east of Morocco. And when you get out of there in the airport, there's a bus, and it's about 8 hours on a bus that brings you right out into the middle of the desert. So they reckon the 8 hours in the bus is the hardest part of the whole thing. It's supposed to be horrible. So yeah, because as you can see, like you're miles away from everything. So it's a long bus trip to get out there. Then when you get there, the first day you have the administration day, and then everyone's coming from different parts of the world. So you'll have a lot coming from America and Canada. You'll have them coming from New Zealand and Australia. So kind of over the course of 24 hours, people come in from everywhere, and they're all coming on buses, and they're coming in different ways. And then everyone is there the day before. So the first day is the administration day. You have to have 2,000 calories for every day minimum. So all your food has to be labeled. You have to show the calorie count and everything. You have to show all of your foods. So if you don't have 2,000 calories for every day, they won't let you race. They'll just go, no, you can't run. That's a minimum. You obviously want to get a little bit more because you're going to be burning a lot of calories. But the challenge then is everything you bring, you have to carry. So it can't be too heavy. So there's a balance between, so ideally what you're looking for stuff that doesn't weigh a lot, but's got a shitload of calories in it. Mm-hmm. So like I'm in a supermarket looking at labels going, 120 calories, nah, for children. 200, nah, 560. Oh shit, yeah, I'll eat this. So you're kind of going, okay, what can I carry? So there's a lot of freeze-dry food that you just heat with hot water, and then you can eat the meal. So my main meal each day is there's a company called Expedition Foods. They actually do stuff for astronauts. They'll do stuff for people who are out at sea for long periods of time. They'll do it for soldiers.
So it's that little bags that we see in the astronauts, like when we see the movies.
Yeah. So it's all freeze dried, and all you do is you add water, you stir it up, hot water if you can, and then you eat it. So there's like pastas and curries and different bits and pieces. So each one of those is 1,000 calories. So it's a small little pouch, but there's a lot of calories in them. So that's good because it means that's pretty much half your supply for the day in one bag. So you'll have one of them every day, and then it's just making it up with other stuff then. So you'll obviously have your gels and your drinks. And because it's quite hot, like I'll eat peanut butter sachets when I'm running here, but like it's fine. It's hard enough to eat them here when you're doing long runs, but like in the desert, it's just so hot. There's no way you're going to be able to eat that stuff because it's just going to dry up in your mouth. Yeah. So it's trying to find stuff that will be okay in the heat as well. So even some of the chocolate stuff that you have here, you can't bring that there. It's just going to melt. So it's should adapt the food stuff to that. So you have your food. You also have a venom pump. So obviously you're in a desert, so there's going to be snakes and scorpions are the main two things that can get. So if you get bitten by any of them, some of them could kill you within 12 hours if you're left to your own devices. So you have to bring an anti-venom pump. So basically it's a pump that will suck the venom out, get bitten. You need a compass in case you get lost. Now there's your GPS tracked. So even if it's very, very lost, they'll be able to locate you with the helicopter. You need to bring a knife, and what else is essential kit? That's pretty much the essential kit. The rest then you can bring whatever you want, but obviously you're going to have to carry it. So it's up to yourself.
I'm going to go with the next set of video before we go to next questions.
Cool.
So I think this one's
how many you've got?
I have 4 more sets. So I'm going to go with the second set. I have 5 sets of videos. This one is the second one. And this one I think shows the first stages of the race. And we're back here after seeing these images. Yeah,
man, the visuals are stunning.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like the terrain you get to run across is phenomenal.
It's like the landscapes that you can see in there.
Like this is
I don't know if you have time to think about it. While you're running.
Yeah.
John, are you planning to or? There is going to be over 1,000 people running this.
Yeah.
Are people teaming up? Everybody's running by themselves. Do you have a tent with someone else? Do you know?
So what you'll generally have is I'm going on my own. Now a lot of people will travel as a group. So you might have 2, 3, 4, or 5 together that may run together. generally what you'll have is you'll have you'll have about 100 world-class athletes. So you'll have a group of kind of Moroccans, and then you'll have Olympians, or you'll have some of the best trail runners in the world will come, because for anyone who does endurance running or does trail running, this is kind of one of the events that you want to do in your lifetime. It's one of those bucket list events for anyone who does endurance sport. So you'll have a lot of these guys who are literally, they'll be in the top 10 endurance runners in the world. They'll be there. So you'll have a small pocket of them. They'll be just gone, man. They're gone. At the back, you will have some people who will walk, and then you will have...
I was going to ask you that question because I saw people walking.
So you'll have some people walking. Some people will walk certain parts of it. They'll run a lot of it, and there's certain parts they'll walk. But you'll also have there's a few people who would be ex-soldiers who might have had 2 legs blown off. So you have a couple of amputees and stuff at the back that'll be just going at a slower pace, but they'll get through it, but it'll be way longer. It'll be like twice the length of time of everyone running, but they'll just do it because they want to finish the event. Behind that, you'll have a lot of kind of social runners. It's just something to do. And then you'll have a pocket of people beyond that who would be serious runners, but just want to go as hard as they can. So for me, it's kind of an interesting one because you're not quite sure how hard you can go, because there's a lot of factors that you don't really know, like how's your body going to respond to running 86 kilometers after running 3 days in 35 degrees heat. And the day after the 86 kilometers is another marathon. So like for days 2, 3, and 4, you could think, yeah, man, I'm flying it here. And like, you have to remember as well, this is the fittest you're ever going to be. Well, for me at this point, this will be as fit as I've ever been. So everything in you is, yeah, you've got this in your legs, man, keep going. So your ego will go, just push it harder, keep going faster, keep going faster. But like, at what point does the wheels come off? You push too far. So there's a balance in this of you want to push yourself, because part of the reason why I want to do this is to see physically and mentally how far you can push yourself. But then there's another part going, man, this could go spectacularly wrong and you mightn't even be able to finish. So there's a kind of wait and see. But for me, there's 2 other guys from Ireland that I know that I've met who are doing this. So I might run bits with them, but I suppose it depends on how fast they're going as well.
Before we go into the next video, are you taking the flag with you?
Yeah, definitely, man. I'll have to bring the flag. Yeah. So Irish people are like Argentinians and Canadians. We bring the flag everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Right on.
Yeah.
For whoever is joining just right now to the show, we are talking to John Mcnamara. He's a professional coach and athlete, and we are talking about the Marathon of Sables that he's preparing to run this next September. We're gonna go with the next set of images right now, and
cool.
We come back. Yep.
When you are setting up this, guys, this is a new channel. We're gonna bring a lot of interesting people like John here. So subscribe for the next ones. That's gonna help.
So we go into the next set of images here.
Yeah, cool.
And we're back. So it's crazy,
that's
isn't it? Like,
amazing, man.
It's...
What? Then you mentioned a few of the dangers, John.
Yes.
Can we talk about this again? So we're talking about scorpions. We are talking about snakes.
Yeah.
What about sandstorms? What about, I don't know, is there any wolf, coyote, or something like this?
No, there might be, now that you say it. I know that there's definitely snakes, there's definitely scorpions, and quite a lot of other kind of insects and stuff in the desert that can possibly get you. You also then have the heat, so that's one of the obvious dangers. Maybe not so much for the Moroccans, but like if you're from Ireland, then if it gets really hot, that's going to sting.
It's gonna be a buffet. for those
Yeah,
pathways.
yeah, completely. Yeah, and it's it's going to be a buffet for the desert people. They're like, oh yeah, more Irish people. So you then they get that time of the year, so April and I think September as well, they get a lot of really bad sandstorms. So you can't do anything. You pretty much just gotta hunker down on the ground and you gotta wait for these things to pass. So they could last 1 or 2 hours. And these could be 100 kilometers an hour of a sandstorm. So it's like it's not just a little bit of sand blowing. This is full on. Obviously nothing to keep sand compacted. So
Yeah.
anything that's loose will just start flying. So you don't really want these to happen at night, because what can happen is the tents can start to blow away, and some of the poles and stuff out of the tents. There's been instances where it's kind of gone through people's hands or flew past people's heads and stuff. So it's there's quite a few parts in this that are a little bit
Are
out
you
of control.
practicing setting up a tent or something like this?
The tents are set up for you.
Okay.
So the only thing with it is it's like 4 poles and then it's just some canvas over the top. So there's nothing in the front at the back. So everything just blows straight through,
I think
which is really ideal for sleeping.
I have a few more images in here. I think, and they show those tents. So I'm gonna go with
Yeah.
with
So
another
Yeah.
set of images right now.
yeah, so it's the bivouacs, and then they're kind of every night they're formed in a semicircle.
Yeah.
So you should be able to see it. I'll just have a look at it here.
Yeah. And we're back now after those images. I think
Sweet.
that whoever is watching it from us is going to be a delay for us
Man,
to watch
I
it
really would
live.
like to do it
Yeah,
with a,
man, absolutely.
with an ATV though, huh? With a quad.
Yeah, you could get on a camel. So at the very back of the field, they have a camel. So the camel brings some supplies, but if the camel passes you out, you're disqualified. So the only thing you have to do is stay in front of the camel. That's
Mhm.
that's one of the only ways you can get disqualified. Now the medical team can disqualify you as well. So if
I
the
was going
medical
to ask you
team,
something
yeah,
about that while you're running.
yeah,
Uh, I don't know if something happens to you, how much help you can get from the organization, or if there is another organization supporting the actual organization. And what about the people that are living in there? They're kind of help you. I don't know. I saw some images that people are like looking at the people running, actually passing by. Do you know, or did you hear that people help you, throw you water? I don't know, and give you
you
something,
won't
or
get water off them, but there's some tribes that live out who will pass the tribe people. I think they're called is the tribe. Um, they're kind of quite a well-known ancient tribe in that region, but they won't give you anything because they don't have it. They live in the desert. They ain't going to give you shit. So it's but the thing is, maybe it depends on the day. Probably every 12 to 15 kilometers there'll be an aid station.
Right.
So you get I think it's between 2 and 3 liters of water every 15K at the stops. So when you get to the stops, there'll generally be medical people at them. But if you get lost or whatever, or you get sick in between, it's kind of up to the other runners to be able to get support to you, or vice versa. So a couple of guys I know did this 2 years ago, and they said on the long day, so it was 84 kilometers the day they did it. They said that this guy that they came across was starting to hallucinate because he just he hadn't drank enough water. He was really dehydrated. He hadn't eaten enough food. So after about 70 kilometers, he just started to hallucinate. And he was going crazy. But he had this thing in his head that a bee was after going into his ear, and he thought it was flying around his head. There was nothing in there, but he had a stick, and he was sticking the stick in his ear, and he was trying to kill this bee that he thought was in his head, but there was nothing in there. And they
Oh,
they were running and they came along and they're like, man, you're going to kill yourself. What are you doing? And he goes, there's a bee in my head. It's flying around in my head. So they had to like take the stick off him and sit him down and give him some water and give him some food. And then eventually they just walked with him for a small bit. And then he kind of came around again. But yeah, you can, on the long day, especially because you run through the night, you get a lot of people hallucinate and just do mad shit. Yeah. So
yeah.
it's,
That's
yeah, you just don't know what's in store, which is part of the danger, but it's also part of the fun.
Okay. Is there any video left, Seb?
sorry. There
Is
is
there
one more
any
set of
video?
videos. I'll pass it through now, so we see.
Yeah, let's
Uh,
kick it.
Yeah, cool.
yeah, it's more about the last phase and people arriving and kind of emotional arrivings. So I'll just
Yep,
watch it there.
cool.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the
Oh
last
man,
video.
the terrain is very rough.
It is.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is.
it's
Yeah.
it's there's not a whole pile of the terrain. It's very flat. You get some of the flattest parts of the terrain are the dried out riverbanks. So there was rivers there maybe 50, 100 years ago, and then that's really kind of flat. So when you get to running them, it's really good. But a lot of the other, it's very uneven and it's a lot of up and down climbing. So
Hmm.
that's going to have an impact on your legs too.
Yeah, but how do you prepare that? Because you run, I mean, I'm not sure if you just go to hills in Ireland and you just go up and down to see how is the feeling, or you just straight right. How do
Um,
you?
so I did quite a lot of road running at the start, and then I was like, okay, this doesn't prepare you. So then I started to run in the mountains and run on the trails here.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of uneven surfaces. There's a lot of rocks, a lot of stones, a lot of mud. Just yeah. So the trail, there's a lot of really good trails in Ireland that you can run in, and close enough to my house too. So probably within half an hour of my house, there's a couple of really good trails that are quite steep as well. So they're good for practice. And generally, what I did well is I'd put on my full backpack, so I'd make sure I had the weight that I was going to be running in as well when I was doing them, just to
Hmm.
make sure that like your shoes were okay, that your shorts were okay, that the backpack felt okay in your back. So just kind of testing out your equipment. But then what I do as well is I test out whatever food I was going to have during the race. So not the stuff you'd eat before you start and you eat after the race, but some of the longer days you need to eat while you're running,
Hmm.
because you're going to burn so much calories, you have to replace it while you go. So some of it was liquids that you would drink, and then some of it was pouches and stuff. So on the longer runs in the hills, I just started to test out what food I could eat, and then some stuff would upset your stomach, so you're like, okay, I gotta go, and you just test out something else. So
Right.
yeah, it's
Right.
a little bit of trial and error.
Hmm. And question, at least one of the last ones from my side.
Yeah.
But what what do you plan after this? Like after this marathon, what are the plans when after you finish this? Is there any other one? You mentioned one that is tougher than this one, actually. Uh,
Yeah, so the Barkley Marathons is it's on Netflix,
okay.
which is at this point it must be the hardest race in the world, because some of the best runners, like there's a guy Gary Robbins in America, who's an unbelievable athlete, and he didn't even finish it. He got really close. So you're going like, if these guys can't finish it, this is something you want to have a cut off. Now it's
Hmm.
invitation only, so you may never get near it, but I suppose the thing is, there's a few people I know who've done this, and they said you'll do this, and as soon as you come home, you'll be just going, okay, what's next? So there's a few others. There's quite a few races out there that are really really tough. Like I want to do a 24-hour race, so it's 24 hours. Sometimes it's on a 1 kilometer loop, and basically the winner is whoever covers the most distance in 24 hours.
Wow.
So there's quite a few. there's 100-mile races, there's 200-mile races. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff you can do, and they're all over the world as well. So you get to travel to do them too, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be the start of a lot more stuff.
And I'm
Sounds
still planning for my half marathon.
Yeah. You start the half, then you'll do a full, then you'll be doing stupid shit like me.
Come on.
Hey, you should go. You should go 7 train with John in Dublin.
I was actually thinking while he was talking.
yeah, absolutely, man. If I'm in Dublin, we'll go running.
John, just closing for my side as well.
Yeah.
Are you collecting for charity or something like this?
Yeah, so I have a GoFundMe page up. So I kind of had it up, and then I didn't take it down, but I just didn't promote it again because the race was postponed. So what I'll do is it's for a charity in Limerick. It's called Cleaners Foundation.
Yes.
And what they do is they provide financial support for families who have a really sick child. So if your child is in hospital, sometimes the kids are terminally ill, then one or both of the parents has to stop working because they need to mind the child or be in the hospital with it. So then this charity then gives them some financial support to pay their bills or pay their mortgage for a few months. So it's a really, really cool charity, and they do a lot of really good work. So yeah, I raised already something like just over €2,000. But I would have raised more getting closer to the race and during the race, but because obviously it got pushed back. So when it gets closer to the race again, I'll start promoting it again for Cleaners Foundation. And the plan is to raise over €5,000. So hopefully we can get a little bit closer to that.
We'll make it after we are going to put all the links for your pages and everything
cool.
on the description
and what
of
is
the
your
video.
what is your Instagram for people to find you in case they want to get in contact with you? We're gonna put it afterwards, but you.
Yeah. So my Instagram and my Twitter are both the same handle. So it's at J Mcnamara Coach, and you'll find me on Instagram and Twitter on them. So yeah, you'll probably put them in on the end anyway as well. So, but for anyone who does, by all means, connect. I'm active on them quite a bit, probably too much, but yeah. So you'll get me on them.
Just a quick that came up to me. Are you planning to record the race? Are you gonna strap a GoPro or something like this?
Originally I wasn't going to because I was going to have to carry it, but I might put a GoPro on my head. So what I might do is just charge it up and then basically run it out as long as it goes without bringing spare batteries in another pack. So I might bring the GoPro and just use it for the long day. So the 86K day, because you go through the night and then the size comes up and you go through the darkness, so I was like, the GoPro would be pretty cool for that day. So I think I'll just do one of the days basically for a full battery on the GoPro.
And they give you the option to record. Maybe they record it for you, and then you get the kind of the edition or the film.
They will take some photo and some tape at the start of each day. So just at the starting point, there'll be people there, and then at the very end, obviously, when you cross the finish line, they'll have photos and video then. But there's huge stretches where you're in the middle of nowhere, so there's going to be nobody recording that.
Okay.
So John, ideally we would like to have you after the race as well.
I was going to read my mind, Pablo. You read my mind. I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, if I'm still alive, I'll come back on, definitely.
If you're not being eaten by a scorpion,
Yeah, if the snake doesn't kill me, then I'll come back. Yeah, definitely, man. Especially like if it's run in September, then by all means, at the end of September, early October, I'll come back on and I can fill you in on everything. It'd be pretty cool.
Awesome. Also, I will let you know when I come to Ireland as well. Maybe we can catch up.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I don't know, Seb, do you have anything else to add? Or?
No. That was I was going to say the same of you. He has to commit to come back to us.
Yeah, I'd love to come back. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And we can see some of those recordings from the GoPro actually.
Yeah, I'll bring you some recordings and I can show you some of the photos and stuff as well, so you can put them in the next time. But yeah, 100%, I'd love to come back on. It'd be brilliant.
Okay, perfect.
Absolutely.
John, and thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much for being the first guest of Uncommon Sense.
Thanks, guys.
First show. And Pablo.
No, it's a really interesting chat.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Amazing, man. Thank you very much.
And yeah, we're gonna come back next Monday with Uncommon Sense number 2, I think. And you can, as Pablo said before, don't forget to subscribe. Everybody that is listening, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And we have Uncommon Sense in English, and we also have Uncommon Sense in Spanish. And we're gonna be back next week. So thank you very much, everybody, and I'll see you guys in a week. See you, John. See you, Pablo.
See you guys.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye.
Bye bye.